Two congressional lawmakers have asked a federal judge to appoint a special master to expedite the release of files related to the Justice Department's investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. The department has gone past the December 19th deadline that President Trump signed into law that required the DOJ to release all of its records on Epstein. This week, government lawyers told a judge only 1% of the files have been reviewed and released so far. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now. Scott, what exactly would a special master do?
Take over some of this process, Lindsay. What the bipartisan group in Congress is arguing is that the Department of Justice has already proven itself to be incapable of this task. They were mandated under the law to release all of the files properly redacted by December 19th. We are now 3 weeks later, and just 1% of the files have been released so far, as you mentioned. The redactions are being questioned. They're saying a special master would have a apolitical and perhaps more focused duty to get the files out more punctually. This goes to a federal judge in New York. Potentially, this goes through other courts and other challenges. But you see the message here. They're saying the Department of Justice has failed on its mission that is required under the law. The Department of Justice being in charge of prosecuting federal law, they'd like a different party, a third party, to come in and run this thing.
There are also calls for an inspector general to look into the files. What would that mean? How would that be different?
In the meantime, a bipartisan group in Congress, some of the survivors who've been advocates, some of the watchdog groups keeping an eye on this, they've all asked the internal inspector general of the Department of Justice to figure out how the law's been violated and what's been going on here. Have there been selective releases that are politically motivated? Is this a tenable thing to violate the federal law and not today or tomorrow or the next day release these files? They want an internal inspector to get on this. I'll say this, Lindsay, the internal inspector at the Department of Justice has handled big, high-profile cases before. They investigated the FBI's mishandling of the U.S. gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar's matter, about James Comey's emails, FISA. They are used to hot topics and big issues.
And 5 years after the January 6th attack on the Capitol, there's movement regarding that plaque honoring those who defended the Capitol. Where do things stand?
Just 3 years late, but there was an agreement in the Senate to finally hang a plaque to honor the police heroes of January 6th. That plaque. It was supposed to be hung by March 2023. Trump allies in the U.S. House dragged their feet on this, would not hang the plaque, insisted it wasn't ready to be hung. The U.S. Senate circumvented all of that today. A bipartisan group got together and said they'll hang it in the Senate until there's a final agreement as to where it goes on the west front of the Capitol, as designed by the law, where the worst of the fighting was January 6, 2021.
Scott MacFarlane, thanks so much.